The thing that made me think about religion the most actually was it was actually Jordan Peterson, and he had said, like when it comes down to it, I was the same way. Mill's an atheist, but when it comes down to it, you can't disrespect something that's been around for thousands of years. It's resonated with so many generations. Like think about how long that is, how many people that is. That's at least 10 people long. You know what I mean? If you said people lived like 100 years apiece, it's 10 people long. Like think about how many generations had to go and deal and endure what the Bible or whatever religion that you're thinking about and why they did it for that long. What was the purpose behind that? And why is it that there's certain concepts that are always a little bit along the lines with every religion? And I think it ultimately comes down to we as people are prone to making very bad mistakes about the intention of our fellow man. We're bad at making mistakes as far as um, just having a natural barometer on which way to go to have the maximum amount of good for all humanity, not just ourselves or what we deem to be what needs to be snuffed out of society. Because that's a big thing. A lot of people think that they know what needs to be snuffed out, but very few people think about what they can do individually to add or what kind of example they want to show for other people to follow. Um, so when it comes down to it, I'd say that religion is is something that I don't know what the new quote unquote religion needs to be, but we need a new centralizing kind of thought. And I'm thinking maybe a psychedelic trip that is maybe mandated at like 21 or something like that might do is like, look, man, you're starting to pay taxes and shit. It's time to unplug, man. Like
Yeah.
stop with BS. But then nobody would like vote, and then people would go like, oh, I don't fucking care about that system. That seems
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like it makes me sad sometimes when I see and you see a lot of people, like when you go out in the world and just interact with the average person, or even people with you work with, or anyone like that. There's so many people who are grown adults, and many people who are much older and have had much more life experience than me, who just clearly live totally unexamined lives and just go off uh, their instinctive emotional responses all the time, and they have all these problems. And part of what helps me see that is psychedelics, for sure. And it's also that, like, this is a human thing that I've had a history of my own emotional problems too. Like, I've had depression for a long time. I used to have a serious anger problem, so spent years developing, like, these habits to help me deal with my emotions and examine them, and deal with them in a healthier way. Like, I do all these things, like I make sure I work out all the time, I meditate, and all kinds of stuff like that, so I can avoid being like an angry and depressed person all the time.
And I think that's something else that psychedelics kind of helps you out with is when you are angry and depressed, a lot of people kind of just feel those emotions and then they become a slave to them without really questioning, well, why am I angry and depressed? And a lot of the reason why you don't feel like you're happy, or you might have that feeling of what we call anger or depression, is your feeling of hopelessness that a lot of people have that's self-induced. Like maybe you're working a job that's crappy and you don't know how to get out. And a lot of people are just afraid because you don't know what we're going off into the abysses. That's like I said, the hero's journey that we started out with. The psychedelic trip makes you go on that journey. And I wouldn't suggest it to anybody that isn't ready for it. It isn't ready for a challenge, but it is very hard. And I think something that a lot of people think about psychedelics too is that it won't be hard. That is going to be an easy trip. Like the whole point behind it is it's very hard in the middle of it. But then you come out on the other side, you're like, dude, I went through the whole myriad of emotions and I'm fine. You know what I mean? Because it does feel like you're almost emotionally dying. And
It
maybe you are.
does.
maybe you are. Maybe there's a part of your mind that's like, I'm killing off this fear that you had by making you really explore something you didn't want to explore ever before.